great to be here in Istanbul. Thank you very much for having me. Actually, I just got here from the Asian part of Istanbul, and it took me like 1 hour and a half, in an Uber to get here. And it was just funny because in Switzerland, in my country where I come from, I could drive across the entire country almost, which was really, really funny. But I'm really happy to be here and have this panel with you today on DeFi, promising use cases and risks and challenges. And together with me, we have amazing panelists that will be going through this whole thing. So first things first, we have Paweł Łaskarzewski, co-founder and CEO of Nomad Fulcrum Hedge Fund. Yes, welcome me. Great. Then next we have Leonardo De Fazio, co-founder of Green Capital and DeFi advisor. Also happy to welcome you. Great. And then last but not least, we have Alexander Wilke. He is co-founder of Satoshi Pay and also Pendulum today. So welcome you, Alexander. So, cool guys, great that you are here on stage with me. As I said, our topic today will be DeFi, mainly, the use cases, the promising use cases, as well as the risks and challenges that we want to look at. But maybe just first to start off, that we're all on the same page, So what is DeFi for you guys? Maybe if you could sum it up in a few sentences, maybe starting with you, Paweł.
Okay, so from my point of view, DeFi is basically providing accessibility to financial products for everyone. Right now, if we have customers, we have clients, they are attached to the bank that they are operating in, usually, and they have access only to the products that are in the bank. And even if they buy those products or invest into financial products in the financial institution they are in, they cannot withdraw those products and to sell them somewhere else on the free market. They are stick to this broker, to this financial institution. With DeFi, I can do anything I want with those products. I can invest them somewhere else. I can put them into other DeFi protocols that we use them as a collateral, etc. So accessibility is, in my opinion, the biggest thing that DeFi is providing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. One thing to add, so you can look at the technical perspective, right? Then it's decentralized server and so on, boring stuff. So for me, DeFi as a user is actually, you have this, let's say, equal access to financial services and applications as a user. Like everyone can join, everyone can do stuff. And not only that, you can also contribute, so you can also run the services actually and being part of them. I think that's, for me personally, like the major thing in terms of DeFi.
I would just say that for me, DeFi, it's magic, we can say, because you just need to know a little bit of Solidity or Rust or coding in other languages, but those are the main. And basically, you can create every single financial service that you want that exists, that doesn't exist. And you can basically give it to people because there is a huge amount, actually, I don't remember the exact percentage, but there is a huge amount of people now in the world that doesn't even have access to a bank account. So basically, we can provide those services to people that otherwise will just dream about using a financial system and making some money. So I would just say for me, DeFi, it's magic.
Yes, interesting. So what I gather from your comments is really like it's about composability, as we often hear, that we can bring everything together. It's about permissionlessness, as you said, that like people who don't have access can have access to financial freedom as well. So yeah, I think these are certainly great things. I mean, DeFi, when you hear the term decentralized finance, usually nowadays I was wondering, has this term maybe been misused, or did we end up using the wrong term? Because like what we've been hearing is that, and also throughout 2022, a lot of DeFi stuff was not really decentralized, So what is your take on this? Is decentralized finance the right term to describe what we are looking at here, or should we use another term instead?
I would say that it depends on the definition of what decentralization is, because a lot of people have different idea what it is. In my view is that decentralization is, as I said previously, accessibility, because if you have centralized management of your capital in a bank, and you cannot withdraw this and put somewhere else, this product that is in there on the books of this bank, and it's hard to move it somewhere else. That's decentralization, because I can use those everywhere I want to. And the second thing is fractionalization. Like I can, with tokenized financial assets, I can buy at half of something. Imagine everyone knows Berkshire Hathaway. Stocks of Berkshire, one stock of Berkshire Hathaway A, Series A, costs $300,000 or even more. So who can afford that? Basically, most of the people cannot afford for such a thing. But if that would be fractionalized, and with the usage of blockchain and cryptocurrencies, we can do so. So I can have like one part of 300 pieces of such a stock, and that's decentralization, in my opinion. This is about providing those opportunities not only for the people with the big checks, but also for the people that don't have so much capital.
Interesting. You guys have anything to add?
Yeah, I think when it comes to, I mean, you're touching on 2022, and when we see what happened there, I think what we have learned is that I think it is correct to say DeFi to the things I understand with DeFi. So the things that burned down or exploded in 2022, I think they were actually not DeFi. So you have a good lesson there of not your key, not your money. So what happened there was that people trusted some people, some management, some companies holding their key for them, trusted them with their assets, and that didn't work out so well. And I think when we say DeFi now, and especially also this year, we mean actually DeFi. We mean it's not on a centralized exchange, that crypto. It is in a protocol, in a decentralized protocol. So I don't need to trust a person. There were many people that turned out not to be trustworthy in 2022, but you have to trust a machine, right? You have to trust the code, or you can even review the code, so you don't have to trust anyone. And I think this still stands. And the last year was the big proof that this journey of crypto in general since 10 years is on track, because we lost a lot of bad actors and also let's say not so trustworthy protocols or ideas in the last year, but in general, if you look at the top DeFi protocols like Aave or Uniswap or some innovations that came through, there was not a single incident or hack on those protocols, and I think this is the way to go forward. We just have to face some challenges in terms of adoption, and we can talk about the obstacles also for DeFi. Of course, it's not as easy as these services that failed last year in terms of user onboarding or user experience.
I think I agree with everything, and I also think that we have a big problem about the lack of knowledge of people. Not only about DeFi, but also about just saving money, for example. I'm from Italy. You know, in Italy, people like to weigh in on every single new thing that they see, and sometimes they don't even know what they're doing. For example, I have a lot of friends that ask me about the situation with Celsius, and they will tell me, you see, DeFi is not working, but it's not DeFi. So basically, they don't even know that they are not using DeFi. They are just putting money on a platform that it's kind of using their money in DeFi for them. So probably the biggest problem in the future will be just to educate people about how to use DeFi, because at the moment they don't even understand what does it mean if something is decentralized or not, and they just trust other people. So the basic is trust the code, not the people, and until we don't have that, it will be very difficult.
So I would like to add to what you just said, like about the problems. So education is one of the biggest problems, of course, but another one is security. Like most of the DeFi protocols have been hacked in the past. More capital in the crypto has been lost, not due to scams, but due to hacks. ALBT 120 million in February. After that, 2 weeks later, 200 million. Like 3 weeks ago, $50 couple million. A lot of money is being lost because of security. So even if people are going to be educated well, they still gonna lose capital because of lack of, I don't know, rules how to create those protocols in those companies. So that's what is also super important from the people and projects point of view, that they should focus highly on security because they are providing tools for people to manage their capital. Some people, as we all know, people are greed at the end. So if people are greed, they will invest more than they can lose. And then they have depression, a lot of problems because of that. But if we know such a things, those people that are building those protocols should focus also on security very much, not only on the AUM, so assets under management, but they are focusing usually on the second side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's maybe a good time to also quickly segue into the topic of regulation, because what you say, I wonder what your stance is on like decentralization and DeFi and then regulation, because again, if you have DeFi, true decentralization is probably really hard, because in the end, and Alexander, you said it, we are dealing with code, but still there are humans behind it, and probably to really decentralize something to its core 100% is because of that maybe impossible. So then the question that many people bring up is like, where bring we in good regulation to maybe make up for these things which are not decentralized, while at the same time keeping everything that you mentioned that takes some decentralization and makes it possible through DeFi. So where do you stand on this discussion, about regulation and how to bring it in properly?
I believe strongly that regulations are going to help industry, because at the end, the DeFi protocols, because at the end, DeFi is decentralized finances. So we have the financial market and we have crypto market. So we should combine those together and use advantages of the blockchain and crypto market within traditional finances. I will give you a couple of examples. Like in 2021, Santander sold 20 million worth corporate bonds on the blockchain with approval of central bank. This is DeFi. So there is a traditional market financial product which is tokenized and is sold on the blockchain. And you are an owner of that because you can have those units on your wallet. And I will ask a question also to our crowd. Who is using Visa card from you? Okay, a couple of people. Good. So most of you probably are not aware, but since 2021, every time you pay with your card, under the hood, Ethereum or USDC transaction on Ethereum happen. Because Visa changed settlement system underneath to blockchain, because it's make transactions and settlements faster. So this is what I'm calling like combination of traditional finances with crypto and with blockchain, because it helps people to use things, solutions, products much more efficiently and make much more secure capital on top of that. So also, regulations are required because otherwise big banks and big capital will never step into the crypto market. They will never see the growth that we are expecting to see and adoption that we are expecting to see, because most of the people do not understand and are not tech savvy enough to understand what the gas fee is, what the wallet is, private key. They need to have some kind of solution that will help them to onboard with this in this market. And those probably are going to be financial institutions that will provide the whole security, but also a regulator that will provide security on top of that, like Bank Guarantee Fund, which guarantees 100,000 euros in Europe. If institution will gonna fail, you will get your capital back. In crypto, it's not gonna happen at all.
Yeah, sure. Do you guys agree with Paweł that like in order for institutions to come into DeFi, to really have this adoption that we're talking about, that we need regulation as to bring in institutions? What do you agree?
I agree, but for me it's difficult to speak about regulation because I define myself as a pirate. I don't even have a bank account, so for me it's a bit complicated. But the biggest problem now in DeFi is liquidity. So basically, liquidity comes only with the institutionals, and of course now it's very difficult for an institutional. I work with funds, I work with VCs. It's complicated for them to trust and put money inside. But still, I think that we need the regulations only on gateway and in-out, let's say, with the money, with exchanges, with all the payment gateway. I think that if you truly understand what DeFi is, you don't need a regulation, because the code, it's already a regulation. I mean, if it's written wrong, then there is a problem, but everything happens as the code says. So I think if we want to keep DeFi as it should be for mass adoption and for freedom, it should be not fully regulated in that way. It should be regulated in the moment you enter and you go out, because of course money laundering and terrorism are serious problems. But I think if we go too deep, after it's no more controlled by the people, but we need that liquidity, of course, but we don't need the control. Otherwise, we go back to the old financial system. I think we lose everything we are fighting for.
Yeah. So at the end, one thing to that, it's not a matter of choice right now. Regulations are there. MiCA, DORA, Biden's regulations within the next couple of months are going to enter. And the choice that we have is to adjust or to protest. And if we're going to protest, at the end, we're going to fail or adjust.
Yeah, I think regulation is it's not a simple topic, let's say. We have this regulation currently for old traditional finance, and we see in Europe, and we see some evolving regulation. They try to understand and also put out rules for crypto, which is first good that we have some rules. I think MiCA now initiated in Europe with some basic rules. What does a safe stablecoin look like? What are the rules there? What do you need to be as an issuer here? And I think the main objective of regulators is protecting the user, which is a great objective, right? And in the terms of crypto, we now have an even, let's say, a much more auditable, like very public, very transparent technology here, right? So it doesn't make necessarily sense to put all the old rules and old processes onto these new systems. I think it will go hand in hand with adoption, but regulation, after, let's say, the disruption of the financial services, we will see a disruption maybe also and a shakedown and innovation on the regulatory side. Because when you look very high level, what's happening when regulators are auditing like a traditional financial company, they're looking into the books, they're checking if everything's all right, the processes are okay, people like have strong passwords and stuff like that, right? So what happens in the blockchain space is if you have a contract, if you want to use a protocol and you want to make it safe, you're going to auditors who are doing a security audit, right? So parts of that regulation actually is being taken care of like private sectors or security companies or something. And I think we will see more split and more innovation on that side, because at the end of the game, if you want to protect the user, you need to give them a safe like on-ramp or a safe road to the crypto application, and the crypto application itself needs to be safe. How you deal with it, and of course you have the AML and money laundering protection, right? So you also need to look at that side of the things. But to protect the user, I think there will be many new ways coming up. There will be no auditors like reviewing the code. Maybe we see some help of AI. Maybe we have security audits coming into place. So I think this landscape will evolve. And generally, I think the objectives are very well aligned with the adoption of crypto and also regulation in general, which is protection of the user.
You just said that the main purpose of regulators is to protect customer. That's true. But also, my view is that we have this like huge regulation movement in the crypto, not because of the protection, but because of the taxation. There's a lot of capital that has been made in this market which was untaxed at all. And when this grew up too big, they thought, okay, this is a lot of capital that is not flowing into the budget. So we need to regulate also to keep portion out of this income that is made on the market for ourselves to run the government and this kind of stuff. So that's also super important, because like those two elements are against each other, taxation and protection, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I think a very important point, because if you remember when DeFi started, what was the first real use case was for people from America, for example. So, you know, if you have an American passport, you can live whenever you want, but you still have to pay taxes. Or for people like me, you know, in Italy we have up to 70% taxation. So basically the first real use case was that if you have bitcoins, for example, that you bought in 2010, you can just put them as a collateral, take a loan, buy an house, and basically you are taking money tax-free. So that, of course, will be regulated somehow, because tax is the most important thing now for many countries. So.
Yeah, sure. No, these are great points. I mean, in the end, as I can hear it, you know, it will be important that, as Alexander said, in some sense, you know, DeFi with the protocols, if they're really decentralized, they might make certain regulations obsolete, and then it's back to education. As you said, it's really important that we also talk to regulators and people around the world and show them where it's actually the case that DeFi makes certain regulations obsolete and we don't need it anymore because the code is handling everything. But then also we have to be mindful at the same time, and that's probably where you agree, that we need, where it's not the code and manages everything, that there's these points of where we kind of do need regulation, so to say, you know. But maybe another question that comes up in my mind when I hear this is really, probably in the end, it will not be that everyone will be using DeFi just like directly in a non-custodial way. That's maybe an argument I make here, you know, and in the future it will be through institutions again, and the institutions themselves, they can, for example, have all the benefits of DeFi and hopefully give it back to their customers, you know, and then in the end the customer also, because of DeFi, profits and benefits. Would you see anything like this be possible in the future?
But it's happening right now. Like, we have centralized exchanges. So where you have more people, on Uniswap or on Binance and other centralized exchanges? Of course on centralized exchanges, because it's about the ease of use. It's about the obstacles that average user have to enter crypto. Like on Binance you register, or OKX we have in here, and other MXC. So you register on the exchange, you put your money there, that's it, done. In crypto, you need to create wallet, you need to secure your private key. If you will lose it, you're done. Capital is gone. You need to have capital for transactions, so to cover the gas fees. Most of the people do not understand what the gas fee is. They think that Putin is not selling gas to Europe, and that's probably why the gas is high. Those are the problems that we have in the space, and this is part of what we have been discussing, the education element. So in the future, I believe, like, we are tech savvy in this room, but how many people we have here in Istanbul that are not tech savvy enough to use crypto? A lot. How many in the world? A lot. In crypto we have 300, 400 million users. In the world we have like 8 billion. So those people are not tech savvy enough to do all those stuff. So they will require other companies that will solve those problems for them and provide secure solution, like a custodian one. And I believe those are going to be institutions, the financial institutions, and they will provide all the services that they provide right now, like stocks, bonds, trading opportunity, not only from 9 to 5, that right now, why we can trade only on the exchange from 9 to 5? Yeah. Is internet closed after that hour? Is internet goes to sleep? No, it still works there. But this is the legacy system that is in there since 50s. So we need to change that. Even the SWIFT CEO is right now doing experiments with crypto to allow SWIFT transactions worldwide without intermediates and correspondent banks to send capital within seconds worldwide with low cost. So I believe this is going to be a huge part of the future DeFi world, because people and users are requiring so. So if you have a huge portion of the market that requires some certain things, the business will adjust, because it's always about the business.
Mm-hmm. I agree. The only thing I fear a little bit is that in the future they will try to make people have no choice. Because of course it's nice if you have a choice. I mean, if I want to be protected, if I want to go on that direction, I give the money to a midman, let's say, or a mid protocol that does that for me, takes care of my safety. But from the other side, I still need to have the choice to do everything by myself. Otherwise, will not be DeFi, will be again traditional finance, just with a more funny and nice way to do it around. And I hope still that in the future we will have more education for people, because it's the only way to drive all the traffic from CeFi to DeFi. I'm very hopeful. I look at the future. Now we have this meme euphoria around, and I hope with the new trends like meme-fi, they can take, only the good part of bad things, like community, power, fun, and mix it slowly, step by step, to the good part of DeFi. So things are sustainable, no Ponzi, like fake DeFi, as we are used to see. And through that, people that are completely not educated about that, maybe they can have the education to start doing things by themselves. In that case, I'm okay with that.
So to add to what you just said, this is a super important example, how the financial institutions might future. Like right now, banks are borrowing capital, which is basically user capital. They just have a fractional reserve, which is a coverage. So we've seen this problem in SVB Bank, which collapsed because there was a bank run and they didn't have capital to pay out. So how DeFi can change this problem? You don't have control to allow bank to borrow your capital. With DeFi, you can allow smart contracts to use your capital for the loan activity. So bank always needs to have approval from you, and the only capital that they're gonna use for the loans is the ones that has been approved by the user. So you have control over your funds. And if the banks will collapse, then only those who agreed for this risk, to take this risk, to provide this capital to be borrowed by the others, will gonna lose the money, and the rest is gonna be as a cash in the bank or on your wallet that you connect to this bank. And this is the DeFi of the future. Those financial institutions are going to be there. Those solutions that we see right now are going to be there, but we're going to have much broader and much bigger control over our own money, capital, and funds.
Yeah, I think so too, that we will see not only like one or the other or something. I think there will still be a lot of clients, big businesses, corporations trusting only an organization. I talk to a lot of them, and always the first question is, okay, when I lose my money, who can I sue, right? And if there is there's a DeFi protocol, yeah, you can like hardly sue that. You can try. I think there's no big references there or history of that. So I think we will see that still centralized institutions will be, for some clients, will be the best option. But when you ask me, after last year, the centralized exchanges changed. They now show all their proof of reserves and so on, right? So, I mean, I was shocked that actually someone can take client money and just play around with it, right? I mean, this should just not be possible, right? So, I mean, I'm fine with a centralized exchange showing the reserves that my money is still backed somehow, but actually I would feel much safer if I knew they could not touch that money, right, without my approval, which happens to be the case then in a DeFi, right? And maybe we will see more centralized entities or exchanges or other financial service providers actually reducing their own power to that, right? So also maybe running a smart contract, which is publicly auditable or something. So for some parts of the business, I agree that the UX is still not great, and that's a reason for centralized entities still to be there, to open up for users who are not so familiar with non-custodial wallets or interactions. But I do think that the solution is not centralizing this because of UX issues. I think what we've seen is a lot of movement into non-custodial wallets last year after a lot of people lost their money with centralized authorities. What we also saw is now a lot of awareness of these UX problems that are there in the non-custodial wallets in the DeFi world. And I think they are now actually tackled. So there is a lot of stuff happening in the wallets. There are MPC wallets now, which work seedless. They have kind of a like Web 2 experience for it. So it will get easier to hold your funds, to have a non-custodial wallet and use DeFi. And I think it will be a very interesting year this year when we see these UX challenges being solved actually by technology, not necessarily by centralized players out there. Because why? If the technology allows it and cryptography allows it to have an MPC wallet, multi-factor authentication with it, easy to use, I'm fine if I have a recovery option also. So when I lose it, I can recover my funds. Then actually, I have everything I need to use DeFi.
I have one question, only for you. If that works as it should be, as we want, let's say, and the institution will not have the same control that they have now to do everything they want basically with our money, do you really think that at that point they will allow us to act like that and they will do nothing to have the power that they have now? That's the only thing I'm afraid of.
Once again?
If, let's say, everything works as it should be.
Okay.
So, for example, we give only the approval to our funds. We don't have the problem like now that you put the money in the bank and you don't know basically what they're doing with your money. You really think that they will allow us to have a world like that?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that is going to happen because banks have a problem right now. I will give you an example. In the current economic conditions worldwide, banks have a huge issue because they can't make money right now. Like banks, if they have money of users, they can do two things. Buy government bonds because they provide some like long-term government bonds provide the coupon, but because of the high interest rates, they are not making money on top of that, and that was one of the causes of SVB collapse. The second thing what they can do is to borrow this money to others, but because of the too big risk on the market right now, because of the unstable economy worldwide, they are not providing those loans. So where they can make money right now, there is a problem. So they are super keen on to look for new solutions, to look for new financial products where they can put the capital that they have that will make additional money and income for them. So their role is going to be a liquidity provider and to fulfill all the regulatory requirements locally. And that means that, for example, our fund or your company can work in the same time with Dubai banks, with European and US banks, because they will take care of the local law regulations, local banking and financial regulations. You have B2B business with them. They just provide you liquidity, but they are taking care of the customers because they don't know how. They know how. They know how to fulfill regulatory requirements, and they do all the customer support. And they already have a relation with those clients, so they can provide this for them. And they have benefit out from that, which is additional income, but they don't need to do anything to get this income for them. So this is my belief that it's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion that you guys are having here, because especially as I read you guys, you know, you are really, Leonardo saying, Leandro, that we have to have this choice, you know, and we also have to make sure that like all the banks and institutions that then come to DeFi, that they don't have the choice to rug us, because smart contracts in and of itself will make it sure that they can't, you know. And for me, it feels like we still have a lot of time left to get there and keep on educating the people and to hopefully get to this point, you know. That's what I find so interesting. But I think that's what DeFi offers in the end, you know, that there is this possibility. And at least where I come from in Switzerland, the interesting thing is that these things are now talked about again, you know. For example, if you tokenize equities and then you have these on the blockchain, you know, nowadays you can't take your equity home if you have like bought Apple shares, you know, but maybe in the future you can because of these tokenization thing through DeFi protocols. And now because of DeFi, which is here, this is actually discussed again, you know, which was not even a topic maybe 5 to 10 years ago. And I think that's what's so interesting about what we're trying to solve here. We talked about the risk, you know, from regulation, the UX risks. Do you guys see any other risks for DeFi in the future that we haven't talked about before we maybe switch over to the use cases?
The main risk, the other risks than the ones that we have been discussing is adoption as for now. Because the amount of capital in DeFi is like, I don't know, 0.0001 of the traditional market capital. And all of it, all of this amount of customers that we have right now, the small amount of capital and customers, is due to mass adoption. So what we need to do in here to move forward with the whole DeFi sector, to provide this for everyone, not to remove all the obstacles, is to build tools. Like, I'm always comparing the current DeFi market and crypto in general to what was happening in 2000 early. Like, dot-com bubble collapsed, and during the dot-com bubble we had a lot of projects, insane valuations that were raising a lot of capital, and they were not doing anything. So sounds familiar? Yeah, like we have the same thing in the crypto. So after collapse of dot-com bubble, we seen a whole new economy that has been built on the ruins of that. It just to mention social media, digital marketing, and e-commerce. But this didn't happen over a day or a year. It happened over a decade. And what was needed? For example, for e-commerce, the only one thing that was required to move forward were online payments. Without that, we would never seen the e-commerce like it is right now, with trillions of dollars of the revenue and hundreds of millions of users and jobs that has been created. And I believe we are in the same position right now in Web3, and what needs to be done is to create those tools, as we discussed today, non-custodial and other things, so people can understand and easily use them, to move forward with that. And that's the biggest challenge that we face right now and biggest problem, because if we will not build those tools and we will stick to the old ideas that we need to be tech savvy to be in the space, we will never get there.
Yeah, I think from the risk perspective, if you ask me if DeFi has some like strategic risk or something, I think there is not many. It's a new technology. They're being adopted. There is like a couple of challenges, of course. We talked about regulation, and I think in general it will move. It's an unstoppable train. It moves in that direction of adoption. But of course, with some obstacles on the way. We touched on regulation, UX. I think there's also from the blockchain perspective, there are some things to solve, or on the more infrastructure level. For example, if we talk adoption, then we also talk, I mean, we're focusing on cross-border payments, so paying out salaries to people like on-chain or also exchanging money. And you have a whole new, let's say, category of problems coming up or challenges when you talk about this kind of adoption, like data protection, private data, and so on. So once you really start that train, then there will be a couple of more obstacles coming. There is a lot of development right now, zero knowledge already, and also projects where they implement that in a way that is also auditable from, again, regulatory side of things. So I think there are a couple of challenges on the way, but we will move towards that because they're just the advantages are so imminent. I mean, when I just pick one example from the cross-border payment part, there is, for example, always in the traditional part, someone, if you exchange a currency, someone has to send the money first, and then you exchange it back. So this is a big problem. There is like 60%, I think, of the whole volume is insured against that the other party is not paying, right? The counterparty risk. So only that is solved by any standard AMM, because there are these atomic swaps, so you only lose your money when you also get the other side, right? So this completely solved by technology, right? And there are lots of these little examples that just make the DeFi or this technology superior to any like centralized server running a 20-year-old software trying to do the same job.
Do you have anything to add, Leonardo?
Yeah, risk-wise, I think there is one little problem that will be very big in the future if we have mass adoption, and it's that people are very lazy. So I think everyone here has an exchange account, right? So I want to ask, how many of you actually, honestly, please answer, read completely the terms and conditions before to sign up in the exchange? Anyone? Is there anyone that read completely the terms?
There's one.
There's one?
I will expand this question to who was reading any terms and conditions in the internet.
Any, yeah. So basically in DeFi, when mass adoption will come, you have to read everything 2, 3, 4 times before you're sure that you're doing the correct thing. So maybe that will be the biggest problem in the future.
Yeah, it is one. I mean, to finish things off, maybe I want to quickly get over to the use cases still. I mean, we touched upon a few use cases, you know, but I want to ask you one specific question, you know, because when I talk about use cases, I can talk about use cases to my friend, which is also in DeFi, or I could bring in my mom, you know. Sorry for bringing you in, mom, but I mean, it's always the moms, you know. So like, how will my mom be using DeFi in the future? What is a use case? And that's just what I'm wondering, because she will be the one who will bring the mass adoption, you know.
So I can start. So I will bring the use case of our project, because that's an obvious example. Like, we are running a hedge fund. Hedge funds are financial products for professionals with a big checks, like 5, 10, 20 millions, as for now. And the problem is that if you are putting your money into the hedge fund, it's a paper agreement, which is illiquid, the first problem. The second problem, there is a liquidation clause on this agreement, 90 days to get your capital back. And with those problems, this is unavailable for average user. So what we are doing, we are tokenizing the whole hedge fund, which is making we have instant liquidation. We are able to provide this liquid participation units for everyone, and they can buy this everywhere. And that's also a solution of something for the crypto projects, because if you are a crypto project and you would like to hedge your money because you raised like 10 million, you can do so, but you need to exit crypto, which is taxed. With us, it's a still crypto transaction. So this is the real use case, in my opinion, for DeFi project, because you are hedging your capital in the regulated financial institution with central bank, with bank guarantee fund and regulator behind you, without leaving crypto and without taxation. That's the DeFi. That's a combination of those two worlds.
Okay, I see. How do you guys think DeFi will help my mom?
Yeah, I mean, some moms are pretty advanced on non-custodial. I was just joking, but I think the users will not come to DeFi. I think also I'm always very cautious when we say, yeah, we have to educate the user or something. I think you should not educate the user. So the DeFi will come to your mom. So to answer the question, just without noticing, like Paweł said, like Visa card or other apps. So the next banking app she's installing will run in the back on parts of Web3. She will notice in better rates or something. She won't even notice. So next time she's asking in 3 years, then you might tell her, well, you know, like these free apps you're using are actually using blockchain. Yeah.
Great. To be honest, maybe I'm the last romantic, but I think that I want to see my grandmother is dead. I want to see my uncle, let's say, that will be able to make a loop or to stake on nodes, or I don't know, to make aggressive LP farming in the future. I really hope that. I mean, that's evolution. If we don't get that level, then I can go back and put my money in the bank. So maybe I'm the last romantic, but I hope that in not so much time, maybe in 5-6 years, the new generation already will start to be, you know, you are 18, you already have a wallet, you don't have money in the bank, you don't have a credit card, you can go everywhere in the world and send you money instantly. You can make your money work. Actually, you don't have to pay a broker. So I think the new generation is way smarter than us. So I think in 10, maximum 15 years, everyone will be able to do that. Okay. If we keep educating people, of course. If we don't, then we played some years and let's give back everything to the institutions. I mean,
yeah, sure. No, great. Maybe we have time for one more or like one last question from the audience. Is there a question that we could tackle right away? Is there a mic? If there is a question, anyone has one?
There's no question. I thought it's gonna be question. That was my idea. Damn.
Yeah, if there's none, I mean, the time is over. You can also reach us outside if you have any question that comes to mind afterwards. So I want to say thank you very much to you guys. It was really entertaining, and yeah, let's hope that we will see DeFi do the magic and we won't even be noticing in a few years' time. So thank you very much. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.